Getting to the heart of the matter. Back to Guy, Ben, and Frank with more Inside the News.
Welcome back to Inside the News, our election trail segment. Ben Brunson, Frank Vernuccio. I'm Guy Wehman, and Ben's in the middle, and top left is Frank. And boy, we have great discussions off the air. And this all has to do with what we're talking about in this election trail segment, Joe Biden. And Errol, I forget his name. It's not Errol Flynn because he was that actor. But the guy from ABC News was asking Vice President Joe Biden, the future, I guess, presidential pick for the Democratic Party, about his cognitive tests here, Frank. And it was quite interesting that Biden's response was not what anybody would have thought would have been his response.
Well, Ben did a couple of minutes of stand-up comedy in the off break when he talked about how Joe Biden responded, basically saying, "Come on, man, are you a junkie? What's your problem?" And going on and on. Here's the danger I see, though. It is clear that Joe Biden is not cognitively capable of being president of the United States. He's probably not cognitively capable of being a dog catcher. But the standard that's being set for Joe Biden in the campaign is so low. The bar is so low that, as I mentioned on last week's program, if there is a debate, if Joe has the guts to show up to one, if he doesn't drool and wet himself on stage, then he'll be declared by the biased media the winner. So the standards that Joe has to comply with are just barely minimal at all. The problem we also have is that the media is so obviously biased towards a Biden candidacy that they're not going to press him with anything resembling a tough question. I don't know if we could even answer a soft question, as we saw in that last interview. But the standards being so low are going to work in Joe Biden's favor. One question that has not been asked, and really any kind of decent media would ask the question, Mr. Biden, considering your age, and there are questions about your fitness, shouldn't you pick a vice president who is experienced and capable enough to fit the office, the Oval Office, the second that they have to? And when you look at the rogues gallery of choices that Biden is considering for vice president, Susan Rice, who is a Saturday Night Live type of candidate, considering how badly she lies, when you consider Karen Bass, who is, of course, a fan of Fidel Castro, and you look at the others who are basically being considered because of the color of their skin or their gender, the former vice president is doing a massive disservice to our country, and the media, for the most part, is not calling him on it.
Ben, Frank asked an excellent question, and shouldn't they look at someone in the vice presidential pick that could be president of the United States? That doesn't matter to the left. And I say that because in 2008, they put up Barack Obama. He was not prepared to be president of the United States, but once again, he did the bidding of the deep state, the underpinnings of what happened in the late 90s with the Clintons going in there and kind of supplanting all of these deep staters. And so they don't care if they're prepared for president because the deep state's going to run the show anyways, Ben.
Well, few vice presidential choices have been as consequential as the one pending by Joe Biden right now, because he has dementia. It's clear to everyone who's honest enough to state it. He is in cognitive decline day by day. He is a shadow of the man he was just 10, 15 years ago. You can see it in his face, see it in his eyes, and hear it in his commentary and his wandering and his inability to focus. So this is a very consequential pick. And unfortunately for the Democrats, when they needed to be completely open and he needed to be free to choose somebody who was very qualified to give himself a real chance at winning, he went the other way, and he's locked himself into the politically correct narrative of the day, which is all about racial politics. So he is locked into this female person of color. And if he doesn't go that route, he's going to alienate a big chunk of the committed Democratic Party right now, which is all about racial politics. So this is where we're at. He's going to be stuck with a Susan Rice or a Kamala Harris I don't think he'll go with Karen Bass because she was a trained and committed Marxist through most of her life. And I doubt that she's any different now other than what she says. So this is where they're stuck at. Kamala Harris is a terrible campaigner. She has a nervous reaction where she breaks out laughing. The first few times I saw her do it while she was running for president, I thought that was odd. I missed the joke she was reacting to. Then I realized after about a dozen times on air breaking out into laughter, that was her nervous tick, the way she reacts to being nervous. It's very unique. I'm not sure I can name anyone else who does that.
Frank, it is interesting because it seems like Joe Biden is desperate to be president, or the Democrats are desperate to have the power. And Joe just can't sit down and say the best choice for vice president would be X or would be Y. He cannot do that. And Hillary Clinton was another one who just wanted to be president in the worst way and desperate to be that. And Jill Biden, bless her heart, she just doesn't have the stuff to just say, Joe, it's not working. You need to pull out of this thing, Frank.
There was a time in the earliest days of our country when actually campaigning for president was considered inappropriate, that you had to be chosen by the people to be asked to run. Obviously, those days are long gone. But the problem I have with candidates like Joe Biden, and in fact, candidates like Hillary Clinton, is that they don't seem to have a vision of what they want to do with the Oval Office other than occupy it. When you look at a candidate like Donald Trump, like him or not, Donald Trump had very fixed and clear ideas what he wanted to do with the presidency. The same with Ronald Reagan. What I find distressing is that so many candidates in the Democratic Party want to be president because they want to be president. You have to ask whether it's a case of they don't want to be honest with the American people about what their real agenda is. And for several candidates, I think that is the case. Or in others, it's just a naked power grab. And I think with a candidate like Joe Biden and like his predecessor, Hillary Clinton, it's just that they want to be president. And the American people are not a factor. The American nation is not a factor. It's their own personal goal, their own personal push for power. That's all that matters to them.
All right, Ben, in our last minute here, Bolshevik Bernie, he knows what he wants to do, doesn't he?
Oh, Bolshevik Bernie's like every Marxist socialist I know. The rules don't apply to them, so he's happy getting quite wealthy with the capitalist system that he enjoys in his 3 homes and his growing net worth. On the other hand, he wants to impose socialism on you and me and everyone else. Very typical, no different than Maduro and his band of thieves down in Caracas that have all gotten wealthy as they impose hardship and poverty on the rest of the nation. It's an age-old story. It's happened in every country that goes socialist, and it would happen here if we go socialist. To Frank's point, what these people want is more power and wealth flowing through Washington, D.C., so that everyone can become rich just like the Clintons and the Obamas.
This is Inside the News. We are so glad that you're with us. Frank Vernuccio, Ben Brunson, myself, Guy Wehman. Coming on up, we're going to be talking about our schools. Something quite interesting that we're going to share with you in a little bit inside the news type of take on what's going on possibly and why the schools are so important. We'll be back.
You're listening to Wehman, Brunson, and Vernuccio, Inside the News.